Sorry. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Take 3 podcast. We're back here on a Thursday evening, just shy of Thursday night football, Saints Cardinals action. As we kind of discussed it before even recording this thing. It's like, do we really want to talk about Andy Dalton coming onto the field with absolutely no weapons, or do we want to talk about the Call of Duty guy on the other side, falling apart, crumbling in the desert, and Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals? It's just another week where Thursday night football kind of doesn't bring that buzz that it's worthy of talking about. The game could, it could turn out to be decent. I'm not overly excited to watch Cardinals Saints. I'll probably have it on when you have baseball playoffs, basketball's back. So it's kind of getting the pushed to the background a little bit. Looking into Sunday, though, it's not the greatest slate in the world. It really just isn't. You get to find out the Giants coming off a big win against the Baltimore Ravens at home. They get to go on the road to face Jacksonville. Jacksonville looking to kind of get things together. They started out so strong and then just completely collapsed downward spiral. So they're actually 3-point favorites. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Cleveland, Baltimore, not really that exciting, but Jacoby Brissett there, but it's a game that the Baltimore Ravens have to win, divisional game. We'll see how that runs. Jets, 1-point dog going into Denver. I like that quite a bit. I think we both like that one. And then obviously later in the day, Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes go on the road to San Fran, looking to get back in the win column. Tough loss last week. And then closing the day, Tua returns. I'm kind of nervous to watch Tua, to be honest. I'm scared for him because we know one slam and what it could, the unfortunate reality could be. But it'll be good to see him back. Good to see the Dolphins out there at full strength again, not having to run Skylar Thompson and Teddy Two Gloves. So, what are you thinking about going into week 7? Obviously, it's an Eagles bye week for us. Not really the best slate of games that we have.
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it. I'm excited for another weekend of football, but I don't think it's going to be the best weekend. We got some interesting matchups, but nothing too crazy. Kansas City, San Francisco, I think is probably the game of the week, but you never know. Watch it be like Seattle and the Chargers or Raiders and Houston. It just feels like one of those weeks where we might get some weird outcomes. It's just nothing too exciting, but definitely a few matchups to pay attention to.
For sure. So let's jump into our first matchup. If I can get it to flip over. Our first matchup that we're going to talk about here is kind of a rare one. We're trying to figure out a third game to kind of add to this thing. As we said, it's not really that great. So we went with the division matchup. The Colts going into Tennessee. Obviously, the Titans won game 1, and they have a rare shot to sweep the Colts. They're 2.5-point favorites. Obviously, Derrick Henry's there. Ryan Tannehill is there. We know everything that the Titans are looking to do. They're looking to pound the rock with Derrick Henry and just absolutely, just grind it, play defense, play smart, not force Tannehill to do anything crazy. Robert Woods is out there out wide. The wide receiver deck is not great since losing A.J. Brown and Treylon Burks is now on the IR. W trade for us, but obviously the flip side of that for Tennessee, not looking good. And then the Colts, Matt Ryan's still there. He's a 60 throws a game quarterback now at 37 years old, which is rare to see. Deion Jackson actually looked good in the backfield last week, but when you're behind, I guess you're going to come out slinging. So, Alec Pierce's look good. Pittman's look good. The good thing for the Colts is it seems like everybody's trending upwards heading into Sunday. Jonathan Taylor's been practicing. Naheem Hines has been practicing. So they'll get 2 backs to add to Deion Jackson. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Shaquille Leonard's there. So they're starting to get healthy heading into a big matchup where they arguably have to win. You get swept against the Titans. It's not looking good losing that tiebreaker with a division opponent. What are you looking at heading into Sunday, and who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, so I don't think this game is going to be too exciting, but I think it's going to be very competitive. It's going to be close, divisional game. And like Indianapolis, I think kind of nailed it. They're getting healthy. I expect Jonathan Taylor and Naeem Hines to be ready to go, Shaquille Leonard as well. Hopefully Matt Ryan doesn't have to throw the ball 60 times, 50 plus times. I don't think that's a recipe for success long-term with a 37-year-old quarterback. But it's going to show a lot about Frank Wright. You got the Tennessee Titans, a familiar opponent. Mike Vrabel's going to have this team ready to go. They're coming off a bye week. You know exactly what Tennessee wants to do. Run the ball with Derrick Henry, a little play action pass, but like mainly control the game, running the ball. And I think Indianapolis is going to try to do the same thing. I think it's going to be close. It's just interesting from the Indianapolis side because like Frank Wright's tenure there, like they always start so slow in September. Every year we talk about how this roster is really good and there's a lot of questions around the quarterback position. Matt Ryan's clearly older and has lost a step, but he's still slinging the rock 50 plus times. I like how you mentioned Alec Pierce. I think he's had a pretty good year next to Michael Pittman. That's surprising, but it's just, I think it's what we expect both teams to do, try and run the rock, get some big plays and like control the clock. But I'm simply leaning Tennessee 2.5 because they're coming off a bye week. They're at home. And I believe they're a slightly better team than the Indianapolis Colts. I think both of these teams are fighting for the division winner because I firmly believe the AFC South will not have a wild card team. They will have the division winner in the playoffs, and that's it. I think it's going to be a tight race down the stretch because none of these teams are that good. I think this is a chance for one of these teams to make a statement and say we're the team to beat in the AFC South, even though that's not the craziest statement because they're still not that good. But I'm gonna lead Tennessee off rest in a bye week. Indianapolis are getting it together and they are getting healthy, so I do think it's gonna be fairly competitive. But we know what both of these teams want to do, and I'm gonna simply lean on the team at home coming off a bye.
Yeah, I'm rolling with the Titans as well. I like, even if the Colts are getting healthy, I just don't trust Matt Ryan. I mean, I've watched him 6 weeks now. It has been ugly football, turnovers. He takes sacks. I don't know. And then obviously we know the Titans are going to come out, play ball control. They start well. They've had issues finishing. I think they've been outscored like 70 something to 14 in the third and fourth quarters, and they haven't scored a point in the final 15 minutes of a game this year. So, I mean, that's a thing. Obviously, I expect the game to be close overall. The line says that it's a divisional game. One team's getting healthy and the other's ready at home coming off a bye. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested to look at how Jonathan Taylor looks coming back from injury off the ankle, right? Is he going to come in and look the same as he has? Fantasy owners would love him to look the same, right? I mean, they've been dying for Jonathan Taylor to get back and kind of do his thing. And then Nyheim Hines as well, working through the concussion. How are they going to work those pieces back into the offense? And how will they start, right? Because it's a big thing for the Colts to run their game plan when they want to run the football, not to get behind, but turnovers and 3 and outs early to basically let the Titans control it. Because, I mean, you're playing right into Tennessee's hands, right? If you get off to a slow start, a couple turnovers, and all they have to do is pound the rock with Derrick Henry and not force Tannehill to do anything, they'll take that all the way, right? And just grind the clock and mow down the Colts defense. So I think it really hinges a lot on Matt Ryan's shoulders and how Frank Reich's ball club comes out in I would say this is a must-win game. You can't lose 2 games to the Titans, a team that you're basically going to be battling neck and neck with for a division as it is all year. You can't lose 2 to them. So I'm interested to see if the Colts will come out as a desperate football team, clean some things up, play smart football for once, but I'm not hinging on that. I like the Titans as well. Derrick Henry before the bye, back-to-back 100-yard games, I believe. So the Titans are kind of getting things back in order. So yeah, I simply don't trust number 2 in blue and Frank Reich's team to come out ready for a big divisional football game. But I do expect a close one, but overall, I think the Titans will get over the hump. They'll score a point in the final 15 minutes of this ball game to push them over the division rival Indianapolis Colts and sweep them.
I think it's going to be interesting to see if Frank Reich, how he handles the run game because the running backs are coming off injury. And if it's inefficient at first, is he going to abandon it and get pass heavy like we know Frank Reich tends to do and likes to do? He had excuses the last few weeks because he didn't have his star running backs. I'm very curious to see if they get off to a slow start, but the score is still close. If he leans into the run or tries to abandon it and kind of lean on Matt Ryan's shoulders, it'd be kind of interesting to watch.
Yeah, you don't want to have to lean on Matt Ryan's shoulders.
Not anymore.
No, that boy is washed. That's all I'll say. So yeah, we're both going Titans -2.5. Tough to pick the Colts. I don't know if I can pick the Colts, they got to be pretty obvious favorites, and I think I'd still have to sit there and think, should I really take them the way they've looked out of the gates? Moving on, late in the afternoon, probably as you said, the game of the week, we get the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes coming off a tough defeat, some sloppy mistakes, obviously a red zone interception early in the game, and then the ceiling interception against the Bills to cost them that one 24-20 at home. They're looking to get back in the win column, going on the road, 49ers to take on Ayuk, Debo, Jimmy G, and Kyle Shanahan's team, right? They're also coming off a pretty, probably a more embarrassing loss, right? You go on the road to Atlanta and just get beat by 14 points. Brandon Ayuk did look good, but the rest of the team, I mean, it wasn't there. I love Kansas City in this spot personally, just because they're overall the better football team. We talked about this beforehand. I mean, you're getting Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes against Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy G. And I'm just 10 times out of 10 going to take the better quarterback and the head coach that I trust over Kyle Shanahan and company and Jimmy G. So what are you looking at? Are you thinking the same thing? Kansas City kind of gets the train. I mean, arguably you clear away a couple of mistakes and they win last week, but are you looking for them to get back in the win column on the road against the 49ers?
I am. I think I'm all over the Chiefs here. I'm a big believer in this 49ers team, honestly. I think they're maybe the second best team in the NFC right now. Certainly not number one, but I think they could be number two. Last week's showing is pretty disappointing, honestly, against Atlanta. Granted, Atlanta might be better than we think as they sit at 3-3, but this Niners team is too talented, right? They have a great defense. I think it's a top 5 defense when healthy and things are humming. And like they have enough weapons on offense. Obviously, we know the Jimmy G thing. You have to not put pressure on Jimmy G. You don't want him trying to win you the game. And that's simply why I got to go Chiefs here, as much as I like the Niners. And I think this could be interesting because the Niners are in a bounce back spot. They after last week and it's at home, but I think the Chiefs are just too good, right? It's one of those things where like last week you got Mahomes plus points. Now, obviously it was against the Bills, so it was a little bit risky, but it's the reverse here, right? I don't expect Patrick Mahomes to give up games back to back. He only has to win by a field goal to cover. And this feels like a game that will be close and definitely decided by at least a field goal. I'd be surprised if it ends up if the Niners are able to cover within 1 or 2 and they lose. If they win, obviously they would cover outright. But if the Chiefs win, I'd be really shocked for them not to cover. So like I'm all over Kansas City minus 2.5, even against the Bills last week, another really good defense. The Chiefs, I mean, Patrick Mahomes had 2 uncharacteristic turnovers, and I fully expect him to protect the ball this week. And it's just really hard to bet against Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs right now, especially coming off a loss. It's like I'm all over the Chiefs, only by a field goal too. I like it a lot, honestly.
Yeah, it's hard. The Chiefs are one of those teams with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid that I don't worry about them going on the road. There are certain teams that are, they're fringe contenders or they're in there and it's like, okay, they're going on the road. Do we really trust them? The Chiefs are not one of them, even coming off a loss. I think they're more motivated to go out there, play a good football team, although they're 3-3, and prove a point. Good thing for both sides, though. I mean, the Niners are looking at getting Trent Williams back, Nick Bosa and Jimmy Ward. Those guys are practice. So will they play? We don't know. But I mean, that's a good thing if you're a Niners fan, right? Because the remedy to winning on Sunday is protecting Jimmy G when you have to throw with him. Trent Williams does a hell of a job, all pro tackle, doing that. And then you got to get after Patrick Mahomes, and who's better at doing that than Nick Bosa, right? He adds to that D-line, creates pressures, forces Patrick Mahomes' hand, and maybe forces him into more uncharacteristic turnovers. And then on the other side, I mean, the Chiefs, they could be getting back Trent McDuffie in the secondary. That was a piece that was missing since opening night that bolsters up their secondary, and then Willie Gay at linebacker. So both teams looking to get reinforcements back. And then it's interesting as well, the tight end matchup, right? You get Travis Kelce versus George Kittle. We know both teams like to utilize those guys, especially Mahomes and Kelce now with no Tyreek. And then I'd like to see George Kittle get some more work. He's been turned into a little bit of a blocker in the offense, but I'd like to see him get some more work out there. Interested to see if they can get the ball to Debo, get a little bit more creative. They're going to have to score points, I think, to keep up with the Chiefs. That's the one thing. And I just don't know if a Jimmy G-led offense can keep up unless Patrick Mahomes is going to turn the ball over. But I just don't see him having 2 weeks like that in a row where we're sitting there like, wow, right? That'd be reverting back to like the first 7 weeks of last season. And I just don't see it. They seem focused, and I expect them to go out to California and take care of business on Sunday.
I was going to reference the first 7 weeks of last. That's like I guess, the lowest point in Patrick's career, which is not even that low. He's been so incredible. I mean, that's the only time he's really played bad back-to-back weeks. I just don't see it happening. And my last point is I'm interested to see how the Chiefs' run game is, especially if the Niners get Bosa back and everything, because the Chiefs have run the ball pretty well this year. Granted, last week it was the Bills, and they, that's a high energy matchup, right? So they kind of got away from it. I'm curious to see if they go back to Clyde Edwards-Helaire some more, because he's had a pretty good start to the year.
Yeah, for sure. This should be a good one. Honestly, probably should have had it last, but I accidentally forgot to switch the slide. So to close this thing out, we're getting the Giants, the 5-1 New York Football Giants, going down to take on the Jacksonville Jags, which at one point we thought they were going to, surprise us all and have a hell of a season. They've dropped to 2-4. They're 3-point home favorites. You kind of see Vegas is kind of hindering and saying, the Giants just won an emotional big game where they probably should have lost to the Ravens, and they give Jacksonville the home field edge. We know it's pretty simple, right? Brian Daboll's kind of laid it out. He's not going to force Daniel Jones to do anything crazy. He really hasn't. It's been a lot of Saquon Barkley, a ton of Saquon Barkley, to be honest, a little bit more than I kind of thought out of the backfield. But I mean, it's worked up to this point, right? Saquon looks like he's back. He's trusted that defense to make plays and force timely turnovers. And it's kind of that formula's worked. How long can it last? I still don't know. I don't think the Giants are an amazing football team, but they've played to their strengths up until this point. They're sitting at 5-1, and then they go on the road to take on the Jags. They're looking for a little bit more out of Trayvon Walker. He hasn't had a sack since week 1. Obviously, you draft a guy number 1 overall. You pick him over guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, who will be in Giants blue on Sunday, and Aiden Hutchinson. You expect him to get to the quarterback. Hasn't really worked out like that. And then it comes down, right? Trevor Lawrence. What can Trevor Lawrence do? It's a game where he's going to have another coming out party, look good, play good football. Do you think the Giants' fun ends here in Jacksonville? Do you think they finally lose to the Jags and we're kind of like, okay, this team, it's like one of those almost trap games, although the Jags, yeah, they're not amazing, but it's kind of trappy. You beat the Ravens, you face the Jags, and you drop this one. I could easily see it happening on Sunday.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning as well. I think the Giants streak ends here. This is an interesting game for me. These are the two teams. One team I believed in too much from the start, and the other team I refused to buy stock in. But here we are, right? The Jags have had a few bad losses in a row. The Giants have earned some respect last week. They beat the Baltimore Ravens. It was very impressive, honestly. Defense made plays when it was needed. And I think you broke down the Giants game plan perfectly. You know exactly what they're going to do. Smart, precise passes, a lot of Saquon Barkley defense making plays. And I feel like the general public is all over the New York Giants right now. I think most of them love the straight up money line, Giants to win. And then they're thinking, ooh, we get 3 points with the Giants. And I do think it's like, that's not a bad position. The Giants are 5-1 for a reason, right? But I'm going to sound crazy, but I'm going back to Jacksonville here. I think they're in a desperation spot. They're at home. You know, the whole public's leaning Giants right now. I think this is a perfect letdown spot for the New York Giants. I think it's a noon game in Jacksonville, which will not bring a ton of energy compared to like a New York crowd, let's be honest. And like, to me, it's all about Trevor Lawrence in this offense. What can they do in the passing game? Can they get it together? They haven't really looked good in the passing game since like the first half against the Eagles. And it's been kind of a rough couple weeks for him. So, like, I believe in Doug Peterson to get this team right. I believe in them to turn around. I'm not saying Jacksonville's going to make the playoffs or do anything crazy. I'm certainly rooting for him. But I think this is a get-right spot for Jacksonville. I think they can get a gritty field goal to a touchdown win at home. They're kind of reeling right now. New York's off an emotional high right now, sitting at 5-1. I just think it's a lot of factors going in. The whole public feels like it's on New York. It feels like a good position to go Jags. I definitely think it could go south. Like the Giants could definitely go in there and win. But I think it's just one of those games where a lot of things lined up well. And like, I think Jacksonville is going to come out and protect home field. I think they get a win.
For sure. I mean, if one thing backs them, they do have the third best run defense. They've only allowed 100-yard rusher, and that was our boy Miles Sanders in Philadelphia in the slot. So, I mean, if you're looking for the remedy to face the Giants, right, it's going to be shut down Saquon Barkley, force Daniel Jones to do things that he really hasn't had to do all season, and that could work, right? I want to see, can the Jags get out to a hot start? Because they get out to a hot start, say they get up 14-0, it's like then it kind of takes the running out of the game plan, right? It's how much clock is Brian Dable and Mike Kafka going to want to chew up to run Saquon Barkley? Will they try to lean more pass heavy? And it doesn't seem to. I would bet that doesn't work out in their favor if they had to do that. So I mean, it's a contrast. It's kind of teams that are going to play similar, but it's Trevor Lawrence. If you got to take Trevor Lawrence versus Daniel Jones, I'm probably taking Trevor Lawrence all day without a issue. But yeah, I mean, it's a big, will Saquon Barkley be able to do his thing against a top run defense that's only allowed 100-yard rusher? I'm rolling Giants. I'll just ride with the hype for a week, probably get spurned, and then fall off the wagon of the Giants and be like, okay, it made sense. It was bound to happen at some point, and this could be the week, right? I mean, the spread is what it is.
It's been kind of a wild start to the season with some teams, and it would be very fitting if the Giants were to beat the Ravens and then lose to the Jags the following week.
Yep. If they go in there and win, though, it's their first 6-1 start since 2008. So huge spot for Brian Dable. And then it slowly continues to bleed them out of a running for a quarterback in next year's draft, which also it makes things fascinating. We were talking about them in a different sense in the NFC's preview. Would they be going after a quarterback? Now you're sitting at 5-1. You kind of have no choice. The city's behind you to keep winning football games. So will it continue this Sunday? We'll find out.
That's a really interesting point because, like, Man, the sports world could be cruel, right? You have your best season in like 10 years, and it really kind of leads to like you're stuck with Daniel Jones, possibly. I don't know. Who knows? Long season, but that's just like a really interesting point.
Uh-huh. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously we don't know this offseason what the trade market looks like for a quarterback. There could be a surprise trade candidate that we don't see coming right now that bang, they dump Daniel Jones and nab that. But yeah, I mean, the more they win, the more they bleed themselves out of a quarterback, which I guess for the future is good for us as Eagles fans. Let's move on. Week 7 spreads. Let me slide this guy over. Yeah, I mean, obviously tonight we both went flip-flop opposite. I went Cardinals just because the lack of weapons plus Andy Dalton on the road in the desert. I think the Cardinals can at least win by a field goal. I could look like a fool. I mean, they are getting DeAndre Hopkins back. They added Robbie Anderson in a trade, so that kind of just factored in to that. We flip-flop Giants, Jags as well. We both rolling with the Packers, Cowboys, pretty much down the line. We obviously went opposite on the Bengals. You got spurned by the Falcons last week. You're hopping on to the undefeated against the spread team. We also went opposite on Ravens, Browns. Yes, I mean, looking at this, what is your favorite pick? I think both of us will say probably the same. I'll give 2, but one is obviously that Jets one against Mr. Unlimited in Denver. Guy gets hurt every week. He's just not the same quarterback, and Nathaniel Hackett is a really bad coach. But what games do you like?
Yeah, the Jets +1. I mean, you mentioned that just to hop on that real quick. It's just I can't pick Denver in any capacity. The Jets are better than we think, so I got to ride Jets there. What I do like a lot is the Chiefs -2.5, which is we talked about. I just think you can get Patrick Mahomes in a really good spot here, and then I don't like it as much, but I think I'm starting to believe more and more in the Raiders -6.5, simply because it's against Houston and they're coming off a bye week, right? The bye week was one of their best weeks of the year so far in this short Raiders season. They've had a poor start, but I mean, I think you should be able to beat the Houston Texans by a touchdown at home coming off a bye. If the Raiders don't cover, I mean, they might already be in trouble this year. They're riding on like short limbs. They have a pretty good stretch of the season the next month. Like they play weak opponents and they need to win them all. So I'm going Raiders -6.5 coming off a bye.
Yeah, gee, that's your favorite one. If I was going to actually add that in, I like the Chiefs as well. But if you had to pick one of the touchdown or more favorites, you would say the Raiders are the team. I could agree. I think I saw a stat on Twitter it was probably today, this morning or yesterday, where like every number 1 wide receiver has absolutely torched the Houston Texans secondary. So in theory, Devontae Adams would be set to have a big day on Sunday. He probably needs it because, I mean, he seems pretty frustrated. If there's one, I'm going to go ballsy, though. I'm going to go Patriots -8 Monday Night Football. We talked about this. The Bears offense sucks. They run you down to the goal line and then they pass. Clueless team. Mac Jones is coming back. I believe they said he's on track to play. He's been practicing. So I think adding him back, getting Bailey Zapp out of there, although he's done, I guess, a decent job, but he's obviously not the quarterback that you think. But I just think the Belichick defense will be enough to confuse Justin Fields and have him seeing ghosts, looking like a clown out there. And I expect the Patriots to do their thing at home Monday Night Football, whether it's run game and defense will absolutely stifle the Bears, similar to what they did to the Lions. It was like 29-0 against the Lions. And I think the Lions have a better offensive setup than the Bears do by far, right?
I'm with you on all of that. The only thing that worries me is I hate that it's -8 and it's not 6.5 or 7. That's the only thing that makes me nervous. But the Bears are another team where like you cannot convince me to take the Bears right now.
That's what I'm saying. Put it up to 9.5. I'll take the Patriots 9.5. Yeah, I mean, I'll take them by 10. I guarantee you they're winning by 10 plus. The Bears are atrocious. They're not rolling into New England and doing anything on Monday Night Football. But I don't even know if I'll be able to watch that game because of how ass it probably will be. Any other ones before we kind of wrap this thing up and get out of here for week 7?
No, I think Thursday night would be kind of interesting because I think the Saints could straight up win on the road, but like I don't think anyone should bet this game with confidence.
No, yeah, Thursday night. As I said, it'll be on in the background for me. We got some Sixers basketball, some MLB playoffs. So there'll be a window open with the Saints Cardinals, but I don't know how heavily invested I am in Saints and Cardinals. There's just not a lot there. But I mean, that's going to wrap it up for the week 7 preview. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you have any feedback. Drop it for us below. Send it to us on Twitter. Whatever we can do to kind of fix this thing, or not fix it, but make it better. Make it more interactive. Add to the each week's episode, whether it's the recaps, whether it's the previews, whatever it is, fire it our way. As always, Spotify link will be posted in the description of this video, and we will be back next week to wrap up week 7, see where we went wrong on these spread picks. I expect that we will go wrong on quite a few, as history has said.